So, where were you born?
I was born in Fresno, California.
Where did you grow up?
Well, it's not that easy. Um, when I was a year and a half old, we moved to Oakland, from Fresno to Oakland. Um, and then we lived in Oakland for about till I was about maybe 3 or 4, and from there we moved to Berkeley. And I lived in Berkeley from say about age 4 to about age 26. So I guess you could say I grew up in Berkeley, California.
Okay. What was it like growing up in Berkeley?
It was great. It was so much fun. Let me tell you about it. Um, we lived in the best house in the whole block, and it's a residential area, and we had a regular bona fide barn in our backyard. It was a barn that at one time used to be a slaughterhouse. It had a loft and everything in it. The barn, let you know an idea. It must have been about maybe 40 feet wide and about maybe 30 feet deep. And it had a door up on the loft and 3 doors down at the bottom. It was just a great barn, and we had a lot of church activities held in the barn, hay dances and hay lofts, stuff like that. But a typical day for me would be I'd walked about 4 blocks to grammar school, and about 4 blocks to junior high, and high school I rode my bike. It must have been about maybe a mile and a half, and on a Saturday morning, my friend Ryan, who lived 4 or 5 doors up there, would get on our bikes, would drive up to the UC California campus. California Bears. I've always been a California Bear rooter, and would drive around certain parts, and they have some of the grounds. It's like Golden State Park. It was a wonderful campus, and there's this huge tunnel. It must have been a drainage tunnel. It was about maybe 8 feet high and about maybe 10 feet wide. We drove our bikes in there. We'd go far so we couldn't see it. We get scared and come back, and then we'd drive around. Just very very adventurous. Then his dad worked in a drugstore up on Bancroft Avenue, and he was a manager of that. And we would go up there. And one time we went up there in their storage room, and we opened up a big barrel of Horehound candies. You probably never heard of that. It's HOARHOUND. They're kind of like an anise flavored cough drop, is what it
Hmm.
was. And we gorged ourselves on those things once, and there's all sorts of things to do. And there was a donut shop, Kingpin Donut Shop on Telegraph Avenue. And I'd stand there and watch this old man making these donuts, and I was saying, yeah, man, one of these days when I grow up, I want to be able to do that. And there was a record store up on the corner, and a chicken pie shop next to my dad's market. I worked at my dad's market. It wasn't a grocery store. It was an open air produce market. Um, and it was just a great place to grow up. I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I could probably go on for a half hour on all the things I did there, but we used to go hiking up Dwight Way Hill. I learned how to drive my dad's truck when I was 12 years old. In order to bring my mom home, she would walk from 2222 Derby Street all the way to my dad's market. And then when I got out of high school, junior high school, I would go there and drive her home. Uh, and for on that basis, I was able to get what they call a junior California driver's license. And I felt real proud about that because it was a ton-and-a-half flatbed with a standard shift and a compound low. And I felt like a real big grown-up when I was driving that truck. And on the side, it had a panel called Garden Spot Market, Ed Kermoyan and Sons.
Hmm.
And I was one of the sons.
Okay. So, what were your parents like?
Well, my parents like? Well, they were both born in the old country. Um, and I couldn't have asked for better mom and dad ever. They were very strict. I knew my boundaries. I knew what I could do, what I couldn't do. I learned my dad's work ethic. He would get up 5 o'clock every morning and drive down to the Oakland Produce Section Center, and load up that whole truck with boxes of carrots and lettuce, celery, rutabagas, everything you can think of. And he'd come home right around 7 o'clock in the morning, have breakfast, and around 7:30 he'd drive to his store, unload that whole truck by himself, and sell produce all day long. And he was about as honest as Jesus Christ would be. That's about what I can tell you about my dad. He never talked too much. I really wasn't that close to my father until I got married, and I helped him and my mom move from Berkeley to Fresno, and we got to be real close buddies at that time. I really cherished, and because of that, I really cherished more than ever the time we spent together working in his store. I learned so much that I didn't know I realized until later on in my life how much I had gleaned from my dad. My mom was the same way. She always taught me ethics, value, and honesty, and hard work. And she was a working mom and a stay-at-home mom, and I couldn't have asked for a better mom and dad.
Okay, so where was it? What did you think life would be like when you were older?
I never gave it much thought. My sister Zabel, my brother was the oldest in the family. He was 9 years older than I was. My sister was 7 years older than I was. She got married, and her first child was Diane Meridian. And when she was about 3 or 4 years old, they'd take the train from Fresno to visit us in Berkeley. We go to the Santa Fe train station, pick them up. And that Diane brought so much joy and happiness in our house. I knew at that time, I guess I was about maybe 10, 11 years old, is that when I grow up, I want to get married and have kids. Because the joy I experienced with Diane being there, the joy she brought my mom, my dad, going places with her, she just is such a wonderful child to be with. I want to have some of those. And I always look forward to getting married and having children and have the same joy in my house that I experienced with my mom and dad when Diane came to visit us. That answer your question?
Yes. So, when did you first find out you'd be a parent?
That I would be a parent?
Yeah.
It was 9 months after I said I do.
How did you feel about it?
I was so proud. I did the same thing for all three of my sons. When David was born, the day I was to bring him back, I had vacuumed and cleaned the house. I got my shoes shined. Everything was prepared, and I bought a fresh cigar, and I was handing some out to people, and I was smoking cigars at that time, and I brought him home, and I was so proud to be a father, and Grandma took, you see a different dimension in a woman when they have a child. You really tell what a woman is like when you have a baby and you watch her take care of the baby. I felt so proud and pleased. I couldn't have been happier.
How has being a parent changed you?
Well, when you're head of the family, the buck pretty much stops with you. I felt it incumbent upon me to provide, care for, and lead lead the family, and I felt like it was such an awesome responsibility to have a positive influence on my kids as much of a positive influence that my parents had on me. And it was different. It was certainly different when I was going to college, but I was up to it because I had the exposure from my family life at Berkeley.
Okay. How did you first meet Grandma?
Well, when I came out of the service, I got drafted out of pharmacy school after I had been there 2.5 years. I had evaded the draft long enough. They didn't. They finally caught up to me, and I got drafted. I was overseas for 2 years, and I came back, and I resumed my studies at USC. And I became associated in the Armenian circles, the Armenian church. They had a youth organization, and we had get-togethers, and that's where I met Grandma.
Okay. How did you know she was the one?
I'll tell you something. That's a very good question. You know, I dated quite a few ladies, um, and you have a certain feeling about certain people, certain feeling you have others. But I felt like I could only get close to a woman in feelings who resembled what I was accustomed to being, growing up.
Right.
And you have fun, and then, but yet you have with the right woman, you feel that there's something different. The soil is ready to be cultivated. You can grow roots. You can attach. You can expand yourself. Whereas with a lot of the others, who were not like that, you just have a good time, and it's all over.
Right.
But with Grandma, she resembled so closely the values that I was brought up with that I had a closer affinity with her, and it really worked for me. That's why it's so important to know what success feels like as you're growing up, so you can replicate that in your own life. When you meet the right person, you'll know it because of what you've had experience growing up.
Okay. Do you have any favorite stories from your marriage with Grandma?
Oh gosh, my whole life with Grandma has been such fun. She gets excited about so many fine things, going places and looking at this, and she loves museums and shopping, and I just enjoy being with her because she brings the seriousness that I deal with. She brings the other side of pleasantries, and she's one who always has to have everything nice, and she does it for me, and I so appreciate it, and I just enjoy being with her. I enjoyed traveling. We had our trailer, we traveled for about. Oh yeah, she wanted to buy a boat. She and David were driving down Shaw Avenue, and they saw a boat yard, and there's a boat there, and they stopped and looked at it. I wasn't there. And she came home and says, took me over there to take a look at it. She said, let's get one of those. So we got that. And we had that boat for about 10 years. We did water skiing, went on water. We had picnics, in our boat. We had guests, go someplace. Sometime when I have a hard day at the store, I'd call her up and say, get the boat ready. We're going to go out. So she'd prepare dinner, and I got home, and within 20 minutes, we're on the lake, Lake Milliton. And it was so peaceful and restful. One of my favorite times with Grandma is when she was fishing. I was not getting anything, but she was sitting there with a book in one hand and a fishing pole in the other hand. All of a sudden, she screams. She had caught a catfish. And I had to help her reel it in, and I took it off the hook. And it was really exciting. And then that happens a couple other times where could not care less about catching a fish, but she had the pole in her hand, and she would be successful, and I wouldn't be successful. She just brought a certain element to our relationship that is beyond words.
Okay. How has being a grandparent changed you?
Well, being a grandparent, I realize I can see all the mistakes I made when I was bringing my kids up. I see the way your dad brings you up, and the way Dan. David never had any children because his marriage didn't last too long. But I see somewhat my influence on Paul and on Uncle Dan, and I see the mistakes that I made because your dad and Dan doing such a better job than I ever thought I would. So I just can rest back and say, man, I'm sure they're not only smarter than me, stronger than me, but they're better parents than I ever was. But and I don't know. I guess I might be somewhat responsible for that, but I see all my errors that I made when I brought my kids up, but they straightened it out.
Right.
I'm happy about that.
Okay, this is the last question. How would you like to be remembered?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think I'd like to be remembered as someone who believed in a good work ethic, someone who would never take anything that didn't belong to him, someone who was faithful to his wife. I've been married for 56 years. I've been true to my wife. My wife's been true to me. And most important of all, Mom, Grandma, and me are God-fearing people. We have a strong faith in where we came from and where we're going. And we know how we should be living to reflect our faith.
Yeah, okay. That's it. Thank you.
That's it?
Yeah.
I'm just getting warmed up.
Yeah, that's all the questions I had.
All right. When will I have the pleasure of seeing you again?
Yeah, thank you. It's kind of too bad I'm not going to be able to